InnovaBuzz podcast, helping smart businesses be even more innovative.
Hi, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz. Welcome to episode number 87 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, designed to help smart businesses with an interest in innovation become even more innovative. In this episode, I welcome back to the podcast as my guest ChrisMarr from the Content Marketing Academy. We talk about how Chris has transitioned his business from client services to a membership organisation and built an annual live event from humble beginnings to having 170 delegates and 16 international speakers in just 2 years. If you're running events of any kind, then this episode with Chris is a must listen. Without further ado then, let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from ChrisMarr. Hi, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really excited to have back on the InnovaBuzz podcast today, all the way from the East Central Lowlands of Scotland, ChrisMarr of the Content Marketing Academy. Now, Chris was on our show almost a year ago, I think, Chris, and I know that a lot of things have changed for you since then, so I'm keen to find out a lot more about that. So welcome back to the podcast, Chris.
It's really great to be back. I can't believe it's been a year already. Wow.
Yeah, time flies, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Yeah. Now, when we spoke last, you still had quite a bit of client work that you were doing, project work specifically, and I believe that you've made a fairly significant shift last October or so, that where you basically transformed to a membership and events business.
Yeah, that's right. So we, I think it was October last year. So October 2016 was the final client that we've, our final long-term client that we had. That project came to a natural conclusion, and that was the month where we decided that we would transition from a client services business to a membership business. So that was a little bit of, it's one of those moments in business, of a hairy moment is what we would call it, where you're just a bit worried if it's going to work or not. And I remember looking at the numbers probably just leading up to that point, knowing that something was going to change. I needed to kind of work out, well, where does most of our revenue come from currently? And looked at numbers, and on paper you would look at it and go, most of your revenue came from client work in the last 12 months, so why would you not be pursuing client work? So we had to make a kind of like a leap of faith there, but also knew as well, Jürgen, and you guys have talked about this before as well, and anyone listening to this will know this to be true too, is if you've got more than one focus, then you never really end up doing anything all that well. So we knew that we also couldn't go forward running a membership business and a client services business at the same time if we wanted either one of them to be hugely successful. So, less than a year in to this now, in terms of full-time focus on it, we've made more money. I have more personal time as well. So the business has changed dramatically. It took me a couple of months just to feel comfortable with a different business mindset, because when you're in a client services business, your deadlines, you're dealing with clients, you're onboarding clients, you're dealing with client work. There's lots of communication, meetings, teamwork, lots and lots of organization, project management. All of a sudden, that was all gone. Like, I looked at my diary and I had blank days, where there was nothing happening. So it took me a while just to, I think I'm still trying to get better with this, because a lot of the work that we had before was almost client dependent, right? So we would define the project, obviously, and then all of a sudden those deadlines would go into the diary and the scheduling. And now it's all the work that I do now is really defined by me. So everything's kind of changed for the better. I think this type of business works much better for me, and it kind of lends itself to my own strengths, which are connecting people and curating information and content and talent, and also teaching. So I get to do a lot of that all over the world now. So we've got members from all over the world, and I'm able to do that from anywhere in the world as well. So as long as I've got my laptop and the internet, I'm able to make an impact and run my business. So yeah, that was a big shift for us last year. And, to be honest, I haven't looked back. I think there's a lot of pros and cons with both sides of both types of businesses, but this one, the membership business, is definitely more of my business interest. I'm interested in the business model. I'm interested in how the business model works and how to be successful with it. So I'm investing in my own training. I'm going to mastermind groups with other membership organizations. I'm learning from the best in the world at it, and trying to constantly improve. So yeah, it's been a big year this year for us. There's been a lot of other things as well, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty exciting journey. Now, just backing up a little bit, I know, hopefully most of the people that are listening to this interview are regular followers of us, but if you're not, we did have Chris on episode 45 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, and at that time you were telling us about the Content Marketing Academy, but also, as you've outlined here, you were running client business there and client projects, and there are some other things you were doing as well at the time. So just tell us what kind of drove the change that you've described to us.
Okay, so a couple of things. This is kind of off the top of my head a little bit. So if I go back a little bit further, back to when I was at university. I went to university when I was a little bit later than everybody else, when I was 29. So I was 10 years older than everybody in my class. Mm-hmm. And part of my university, one of the modules I took was an entrepreneurship module, which was the one that I excelled at, surprisingly. And I got a first in that class. And one of the things that we learned there was the business model canvas, right? So most people will be familiar with that now. And it was really interesting because we not only got to learn about it, we actually got to implement with it as well. We had to actually create a business that would work with this, and it all started with the business model canvas. So that, and there was a lot of other books that we read at the time, like the Lean Startup, and all of that stuff all came together for me. And at that time I learned a lot about business models and what really makes us, or if you're going to start a business and you want it to give it the best shot, then it really starts with the business model as opposed to the business plan. And that really fueled my passion for just understanding business models. And one of the things I did in my own time was, I remember doing this in my spare bedroom. I got a flip chart and I started to model out this membership business using the business model canvas. And that was about 5 years ago. So that model did not come to life until about 2 or 3 years into my business. So it's quite funny how it kind of came full circle and back to that. So that's kind of where the seed was planted, I would say, that membership business there. But there's also a couple of other people that I kind of looked up to that had membership businesses that were really successful as well. And I thought this is something that I could definitely see myself doing in the future. But when I started my business, no one knew who I was. I was not established in the marketplace at all. I had no real client experience. Like, for example, I was coming out of a larger organization, the University of St. Andrews at the time. It wasn't even in the marketing department, so I couldn't go into I didn't feel, this is possibly not true, but at the time I definitely felt like I couldn't go into the marketplace and sell something in an authoritative way that people would want to join. So what I did instead was a client services business, which gave me the chance to kind of cut my teeth and get involved in some businesses and and get into the business community a little bit further as well. So that's where it all kind of started. The transition came from a few other things, though, Jürgen, that I'd be quite happy to share as well. And this was the real interest in the business model, the subscription business model. So the book that really had the biggest impact on me was The Automatic Customer by John Warrillow.
John Warrillow, yeah.
And yeah, I've read the book 3 times now, and I read it and I was like, this is exactly what it was. And I've got little notes in the side, in the margins of the book. And one of them says, and this is when I was running a client services business, and I was like, this has just gripped my imagination, because I was like, imagine a time where I didn't have to chase clients for money, or imagine a time where I could actually sleep at night knowing that my business was predictable and reliable and sustainable and scalable. Imagine a time where I could have X amount of pounds coming into the business every single month without really having to sell people on it every time. So I had all this, my imagination was running wild. I had this business model from the past, and I could see a future where all the things I hate about the client services business could be gone. And I could run a business where it actually afforded me a lifestyle as well, so a lifestyle that I wanted. So like the book, The Automatic Customer, really with the business model canvas, with my own ideas and with my experience of client services, all kind of fueled the sort of the fire or the passion around this. So just from all of that learning, I got to the point where I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. So what I did over about a 2-year window was I started to build an audience around this concept. And what happened was I started to do meetups and workshops and things like that and build an audience. And what happened there was the Content Marketing Academy started to come to life there. And that audience would start asking questions and they'd get involved in community discussions. And then that kind of just matured over time into a paid membership, really. And it just kind of grew organically, but quite deliberately, because I knew what I wanted. I wasn't entirely sure how it would take shape, but I knew where I wanted to get to. And like I said, it took me about 2 years really to just make that transition from essentially doing free meetups in the evenings and bars and things like that in a local area through to building a global audience and a paid membership.
That's fascinating story and journey. And I know, I've been following you for a little while now. I know that, the Content Marketing Academy runs quite a few events and it does draw some quite influential people and, really good value people to the events. And recently you had 170 delegates in Edinburgh, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. So that's kind of like where we are. That's a good sort of assessment of how things have grown. And I've been kind of thinking about this a lot recently about the live event sort of stuff that we've done. I remember doing a meetup in St Andrews, which is the home of golf in Scotland, and there was 4 people at that meetup. Four people. Me, and I think it was me and 4 other people came to that meetup. Right through to 2.5 years later or so, we've got this sort of quite high, it's middle tier, I would say, middle tier event, in terms of like ticket price and the delegates and the speakers that we have. Only a couple of years later, having 170 people, 16 speakers, world-class speakers, people from all over the world coming to Edinburgh and Scotland to work with us, which is pretty amazing, I think, in such a short space of time. So it's been an interesting journey. It's been very organic. I definitely didn't go from nothing to an overnight success, and we're still, it's still early days, Jürgen, as well. We've still got a lot to learn. We're putting the pressure on in terms of wanting to grow and be the best at what we do. So it's just a constantly evolving process of improvement, and that's what business should be. And even going from client services to membership business was, it was like it's almost like I don't ever want to get to the point where I feel stuck where we're making our money, if that makes sense. So like, for example, if we feel like the membership business isn't working anymore, I don't ever want to feel romantic about it, if that makes sense. I want to always make sure that we're doing whatever the marketplace really kind of needs us to do, but also aligns very well with my own interests in terms of what I want to learn about being a business person. So as the business grows, I have to grow as a business person too. And that might mean that, as much as I want the membership business to run into 10 years, it might mean that isn't the case. So I guess, you just don't know what the future is going to bring as you kind of go down that road. Even if you look back over the last 4 years in my own business, things have changed dramatically. And that there's a good chance that might continue to be the case.
All right. Well, talk us through then a little bit of how you market an event then, given, I'm fascinated that, you didn't give up after having the meetup with 4 people, and that included you, right? So there was you and 3 others, that you persevered there. So obviously perseverance and having an end in mind and knowing what, the end looks like, which you've alluded to, is really important. But then what are the steps you took after that first one, and how did you go about growing to what it is now? I mean, as you said, there's a little bit of organic development there, and I'm thinking that might be around what the delegates are expecting of the event, so that you adapted to meet the needs of the delegates or the people that were interested in the event. But how did you kind of go about systematically getting that growth?
It's a really big question. So let me reflect a little bit, because I do, I want to add as much value as I can here. I think it's important. You've mentioned a couple of really important points there, Jürgen, and this is the one thing, is that you just can't give up. So if you're in business, and there's lots and lots of ways to grow your business, isn't there? There's tons of ways. There's thousands of ways to grow your business. But if you're like, my mentality is that I'm going to be in business for a long time, right? Is for as long as I'm going to be working, my hope is that I am able to run my own enterprises. Like, I don't want to go and work for someone else anymore, right? I want to be able to do this for a long time. So that means that I have to try things, and I know that audience building and building a community around whatever that is, it doesn't have to be a membership organization, just having a community of people around you, an audience of people that understand what you do, is going to be a valuable thing to have, no matter, you could call it your network, you could call it community, you could call it whatever it is. I just know that building that is never going to be a bad move. Having people around you and people who trust you and you have a relationship with is never going to be a bad thing. So investment in that space has always been an interest of mine, but what I've managed to do is make it make a revenue from it. I guess it's a difference. So I think going back to, I think it's probably important that people realize, I'm 35 years old just now. It's August 2017, 35. I started my main career in management and leadership when I was 19 years old. And I've been training and running workshops for the best part of 16 or 17 years. So even going back to my first real job, I've been in front of people doing workshops and training on a whole range of different subjects, so from everything from fire safety and food hygiene to health and safety and tons of different stuff. So I think that was that was almost like, looking back on it now, it's no surprise that doing meetups and workshops and live events has become a real part of what I do, because it was always been a part of what I did. So I think there's something in me as a strength, a core strength, that I want to run events where great people come together. And that happened naturally as I went into business as well. I think one of the first things I did when I started my business was, not only did I get some clients to work with and some small business people to work with, I ran a couple of 2-day workshops as well, so people could come along at a lower cost and develop themselves. So I think from the very start of my business, it's just been something that I did without even really thinking about it, to be honest, Jürgen. It was like, live events are something that I want to do, or workshops would be what I'd call them, but live events is what we call them now. And over time, so that very first workshop that I did had my friends at it. I basically called in favors from people. I think there was maybe 10 people there at that paid workshop, but I'd say like 7 or 8 of them were like actual friends, that probably didn't pay that much to be there. And then there was maybe 2 or 3 people that actually paid to be there. So at first I called in favors and built it that way. And then I think the transition period was about 2014. So we're back about 3 years. I ran, we called it, the business wasn't even called the Content Marketing Academy back then, and we called this single event the Content Marketing Academy. And this is how the business is shaped. Interestingly enough, it's been shaped around our audience. So if we were to fast track some of this, we had about 30 people or 40 people at that very first, basically, workshop. It was a large workshop. And we never had any international speakers. I again called in favors from friends to come and present, and we had 2 international speakers record a video for us that were our keynote speakers. Mm-hmm. And they spoke for about 6 or 7 minutes. It was John Lee Dumas and Marcus Sheridan. And that was our very first event. And that was exciting. I'm not joking. It was really weird looking back now that 2 short videos from people from across the sea was an exciting moment. And that was when the audience started to shape around this idea of the Content Marketing Academy. So it took us about 12 months until we actually embraced that fully. So what happened was we built that live event out, then we started a Facebook group where people were attracted to and were asking questions, and we started to build this community around it. And then we ran another event the next year when Marcus Sheridan actually came to Scotland as our keynote speaker. It was our first international speaker. And then we changed the name of the business to the Content Marketing Academy. We merged it all together, and we just built upon that. So even the name of the business was organic, and it was based on what our audience were looking for and how they didn't build the audience was built not around our business name, which was really interesting. And that was a big thing for me back then, was to take the original name of the business and change it. And making that, it was a big decision for me to do that, because I always felt like we had a good business name, but none of the audience members really knew that that's what we did. So we had to had to go with the flow a little bit based on what the audience were looking for. So the live events really just built and built on that. So we went from having 40 people in September 2014, and then we had 120 people at the event in September 2015. And then we went in 2016, we had 100 what year is this? we had about the same amount of people. We never really experienced much growth from 2015 to 2016, but we changed the event from September to June instead. So really, in the last 3 years, we've ran 4 great events, and this year we had 170 people, like you said, 170 delegates, 16 speakers over 2 days. So it's been an interesting journey, Jürgen, and there's been a lot of learning over that period in time. But it really did start organically from having just the smallest group of people, and most of them my friends, right through to people now who are coming to Scotland from all over the world that I've never met before. So it's just, it has been a case of being persistent and consistent, and just, it's almost like staying power, almost stamina, to stay in the game, to start to see those benefits come through. So I mean, even the first 3 years, people say this all the time, the first 3 years in business are going to be your hardest, and they're also going to be the ones that help you to establish yourself as well. So now that we're into our 4th year, I feel like we've experienced a couple of tipping points that have shown me that what we're doing is definitely possible, and that everything's going in the right direction.
That's exciting stuff. So how do you go about promoting an event like this then? Because you mentioned that there were lots of people now coming to the last event that you didn't know, and they were coming internationally as delegates, I'm guessing. And so how do you go about promoting and getting the word out much more widely than those small group of friends plus hangers-on, if you like?
Yeah. It's been, again, very interesting. I don't think we have how can I explain this without going on, like, try to cut the story shorter? I think, one thing we've never done any real paid advertising campaigns. We've done a couple of things, we spent $30 here or there on Facebook ads, but nothing major. And I would go as far to say that I don't think that even added a huge amount of value to what we were doing. We have done this all organically through content marketing being one of the biggest factors in our success, right? So if you know anything about content marketing, you know that it works very well in terms of, adding value, educational content, but also in terms of building a relationship with people you already have. And part of my philosophy is to really focus on the people. Instead of trying to constantly go out and meet new people, I spend a lot of my time working with the people I already know, who then introduce me to other people. So it's, again, very organic. Someone will, we have, I am hugely grateful for there's people in my network that love what we do and I love what they do, and I can't incentivize them to talk about what we do. They just do it. So, for example, a good example of this actually is off the back of CMA Live 17 this year, there were over 30 pieces of content written about the event. So we're talking blogs and videos and podcasts that people had created without me even asking. They went away and did it themselves, and that's them telling their audience about their experience. And a big part of this comes back to what you had said as well about the consistency or the sort of the persistence, is that I see the longer term all the time. So if I can get last year 20 people, if 20 people write a blog last year about the event, and there's 30 people writing about this year, we'll probably grow next year. We'll probably get 30 or 40 other people coming along next year, and so on and so forth. So I'm not interested in rushing to the end, if that makes sense. There is almost like there is no end. It's like we're going to be here for a long time, so we may as well focus on building relationships with as many people as we can. So I think the way that we've done it is, and it's not exact. It's not an exact science. I get that, but we have really leveraged the people that have. I say leveraged. That sounds like we've used them, but we have relied upon the people that are our biggest advocates. Without it being a tactic, with almost like, I could probably list about 10 or 12 people that have been part of what I've done for the last 4 years, and they will talk about us, and they will share their experiences with their audiences. Again, it's like without me asking, and almost if I did ask or try to incentivize, it would actually have the opposite effect. So I think the key thing here is that just making sure that everybody that you have an interaction with has a great experience, and that will, showcase itself at that'll come back to you somehow. Like I said, it's not an exact science, but it's definitely one of the key things that's been different about how we run our business, is that it's not super tactical, and it's way more about building relationships with people. I mean, one of the things I've always wanted is just to have great people in the room and great people at our live events. So even if you look at our transition between September 2015 and June 2016, there was no growth in terms of numbers there, but I really felt that we had more of the right people in the room that year, the second year, in 2016. So even though we never experienced any growth in numbers, I felt like we had better people in the room, if that makes sense, more of the right people. And that's what's always for me, is just like making sure that we're getting more of the right people in the room for our live events. So that really does come down to relying on your network, the people that really love what you do, to help you meet other people just like them. So that's what we focus on. It's a big part of it. Content marketing obviously is huge as well. Do a lot on social. We try to really, this is why CMA Live is a little bit different than other events, because we really want people to have a great experience when they come and have access to the speakers and actually make friends with people. It's not just an event, you turn up, you passively receive information, and then you leave. We want people to actually come, make friends with people, make friends with the speakers. The speakers all hang around for a couple of days. They go to all the social events. They have a great time. And that's what I really want. I've almost like removed me from it as well. So it's not about me. It just is not about me and how much I know and how clever I am, and this is my event and this is my stage and this is my people. This is about you. This is about them having a great time. The people, the people that make this possible. So I think that comes across in a, even if people don't even realize that's what's happening, that's exactly my sort of philosophy when it comes to our event. I think that really helps the growth in itself, and it means that we don't have to do things like paid advertising and almost grovel to sell tickets. We didn't sell out last year. We were pushing for 200, but there's a point in time where I get to where I'm like, right, I think we've done as much as we can here. I think now we need to focus on making this event really, really amazing for people, so that next year we can sell out. So, and someone in the internet marketing space would probably start to do lots of paid advertising, really push it, start to sort of annoy people and things like that. And I just don't want to be known for that. We want to be known for something entirely different than that. And and
also there's so much that I like about what you've said, but if you get to that point where you're starting to really promote it heavily to fill in those last 30 seats, if you like, you run the risk of getting people in there that aren't necessarily a good match. You talked a lot about having the right audience there, having a better audience perhaps than the year before, so a really good fit. And I think that's a key part of delivering a great experience, which is the other really good thing I liked about that. So you content marketing, you're using content marketing to essentially kickstart the awareness. You're using, and which is great because it's all about content marketing, isn't it? It's in the broader sense, the event, and then building relationships with people and then having people champion and be raving fans of the event after they've participated. But then also, you know, the delivery of a great experience, which I think is absolutely key.
Yeah. The long term is really important here. I'm not interested in running an event that's got 1,000 people at it. That's not the type of growth that I'm interested in. So a lot of people would say to me, oh, next year, Chris, you can do like 500. I'm like, I haven't sold out the 200 yet. So why would I be focusing on like 500 people or 300 people? What I want to do is I want to get to the position, I think we'll get there this year, Jürgen, where we've sold out the event 6 months in advance and it's done. And we've got 200 right people coming to the event at the right price to have the best experience possible for them this event. It could be the event of the year for them. And that's the point I want to get to. It's not about numbers in terms of delegates. It's about having 200 of the right, like you said, the right people in the room. And I'll even say to people, they'll say, oh, I don't think I can make it this year. And I'll say, you know what, save your money and buy the early bird tickets that come out for next year instead. You know, if I don't want you to spend your last £500 on coming to CME Live, I would rather you waited. So I'm not even interested in rushing people into it. So it's an entirely different approach to marketing, I think. It leans right into a content marketing philosophy as well. And content marketing is used to, yes, create awareness, but it's also used to enhance the experience. So we'll do articles and content on, you know, things to do in Edinburgh and you know, travel tips and all of that kind of good stuff as well, so that people have got lots of good content to help them have a great experience leading up to, during, and post event as well. So I think what I think comes down to is we're not desperate. You know, I'm not desperate to achieve anything, actually. I'm quite happy to you know, really push ourselves. We want to push ourselves, don't get me wrong. I want to push ourselves and challenge ourselves to do better and to do more and to build our business and be successful. But I'm not in a great rush to make that happen at the expense of my own philosophy in terms of how I want to build my business. So a lot of that comes down to not comparing myself to other event organizers, not comparing ourselves to the perceived success of other membership organizations as well. So I know what I want. I know that we will get there, and I want to do it in the way that I believe that we should do it in.
That's great. So do you have help in managing the logistics of the events, and what sort of systems and processes do you have in place to kind of deal with all the logistics, if you like?
Yeah, there's a lot too. I think when we go back to the first, I've always had help. I think that's the one thing I want to say is I've always had help. I used to have someone that worked for me full time that used to help me, and then when that person left, when we changed from a client services business to a membership organization, and we've used freelancers since then. We've got a business manager that works with me now. But I have to say this, the community helps me massively when it comes to the live event. So for example, we had 2 of our community members on the registration desk this year. We had people at every table this year that were designated as what do we call them, table hosts this year. They're community members or long-standing community members. We had people helping us with our video cameras and photography that were community members. You know, so I think help comes in many different forms, and you know, you just have to ask people to help you. So, but from an organizational perspective, it really comes down to, like I would say, over the years, a lot of it was down to my own energy, which eventually drains and you get tired out. So you do need to have organizational help. Vicky at the moment, she helped me with CMA Live 17 and she's helping me with CMA Live 18. And we've learned a lot over the years as well, Jürgen. You learn what mistakes you make and what you can do better as the years go on, and what you can plan in advance and all the rest of it. And I think we've just got better and better at that over the years. So systems and processes, I mean, Vicky and I, we talk a lot about it, but we've got Trello in the background really helping us to map out, like, for example, we've got a ever-growing template for our big annual conference. So ideally what we want to do is get to a position where we're like, right, next live event, here's the template, and it's got everything in it that we need to do. I am constantly looking for speakers. Like, it's just the thing that I do every day, is I'm just looking for keynote speakers all the time, female and male keynote speakers, and trying to think about what our audience want in a year's time. How do we figure that out? A lot of it also comes down to a campaign mindset, which is almost the opposite of a content marketing mindset. So this is, again, giving you insight into here, because I'm trying to dig into how we use the systems to do this, but the campaign process is so important. So let me give you an indication about how important this is. We've got, let's rewind the clock just a few months right back to just before CMA Live was this year. Now, about 2 weeks, probably more than that, but 2 or 3 weeks before the event for CMA Live 17, I was already pitching CMA Live 18, right? So 2018 event to people. I was like, look, we're going to go out with our announcement with our keynote speakers and the early bird tickets at 12 o'clock on Friday, the 9th of June, or the 12th of June, or whatever it was. And this was 3 weeks before this year's event. Already pitching it, because I know that I need to build a waiting list, and we use ConvertKit to build that for us. So ConvertKit's our email marketing software that we use to communicate with our audience, but we're building a waiting list there already, knowing that we were going to go live with the early bird tickets. The campaign mindset was so important. So, for example, we sold 100 tickets for next year, 365 days before the event, in 20 days. Right, so we were half sold out in June 2017 for June 2018, all because we planned out this campaign 3 or 4 weeks before the event to 3 or 4 weeks after the event, just for the next year's event. So there's that all has to be planned out. You're going to know when the emails are going out, what dates are going out on, having a landing page set up for that, pitching our keynote speakers, signing contracts, and having that all set out. So that all takes a lot of planning, and that's only just for the launch of the early bird tickets for the following year. So like I said, we use Trello, we've got ConvertKit happening there. We use Slack a lot for communication in terms of Vicky and I and the team sort of communicating with each other. We've got other freelancers helping us. For example, we've got a video editing guy that helps us with all our video editing. We've got our branding team that help us with all our branding, our print, our digital brand, all of that stuff too. All of that communication takes place in Slack and using Trello to manage all the different priorities. So we've got lots and lots going on. Again, a lot of it, until I don't think we'll ever be in a position where I'm not involved heavily in all of that stuff. So a lot of it is down to me being like having energy and just the focus and determination to be successful. So I'll just be like, this is something that we should be thinking about doing. This is an idea, and I'll just on it all the time, basically. So we're not in a position yet for me to take the foot off the gas, and a lot of it, still is driven by my just my energy, basically. So. If I think something's relevant right now and we should be dealing with it, then that'll become a priority. But we are in the background trying to build up our standard operating procedures, our templates for things to do, and just get really, really good at event organization so that we're not doing stuff last minute all the time. But I don't think we'll ever get away from that. There will always be something that we want to do last minute, I think. But help, volunteers, asking your community for help, freelancers, and delegating a lot of the work. That's just happened over the years. I did a lot of it myself to begin with, and then over the years we've just had a little bit more money to invest in it as well, which I think is important to mention, is that you do need to have a little bit of a cash supply to employ other specialists. I think that's helped us too. So yeah, systems and processes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really made a difference. I think, it doesn't really matter what you use, it's how you use it. So Trello, ConvertKit, honestly, that's where we make most of our money, is email marketing. I know that sounds, it should sound familiar to a lot of people, I hope, but email marketing is by far, content marketing is the thing that builds a trust, builds a relationship, keeps us in sort of front of mind. but email marketing is where people sort of click to buy. I don't think that should definitely be part of this conversation. Is that we the 100 tickets that we sold for CMA Live for next year were all due to an email marketing campaign. And like I said, this is a really interesting point, actually. I think it's interesting to bring into the conversation, because this is where I want to get to with marketing, and this should hopefully inspire, I think, as well. It inspires me. Is imagine a time where you didn't even have to write, you didn't have to create a landing page for your marketing. Imagine a point where you get so much trust with your audience that you just send a few emails and all the tickets for your event are gone, right? You haven't even got a landing page because people trust you. You haven't even got a social media ad marketing going on. You haven't got any of that. So this year we sent out a couple of emails. We did some stuff on social, a countdown. But because we've done this pre-campaign thing for our live event, which is really key, this is one of the key parts of this. The 3 weeks before the event, we were already building our waiting list. We had people saying, even if they weren't 100% committed to buying a ticket, they said they were interested in finding out when the tickets went live. So we got over 100 people onto that list. That I think it was 170 or 180 people onto that waiting list, essentially, to say, let me know when the tickets come out. And then when we went out with the tickets, we let them know they were the first ones to buy, and so on and so forth. That's called the oversubscribed model. So if you've only got 100 places, but you've got over 100 people on your list, you're potentially oversubscribed in terms of, well, we've only got 100 places, there's more than 100 people on, so you better hurry up if you want your ticket. So there's a lot more to it than that, but the oversubscribed model is really what we deployed or implemented. We have done that for a couple of years now. The person to look up for that is Daniel Priestley. He's got a book called Oversubscribed, and if you sell anything, client services, products, live event tickets, anything, the oversubscribed model is an absolute must-read for anybody that's listening to this today.
Okay, that's great advice. I'll make a note of that for the show notes, and we'll have a link there. Now, it's interesting you talk about email marketing and emails being where most people actually sign up, because I think it comes back to what you were saying earlier about building relationships. And, you can send people to a landing page that might be real fancy, might have a lot of information on there, might be a big flash show and dance kind of presentation, but you still don't have that relationship from one landing page. But if you've been following up with emails, particularly if they've been delivering exceptionally useful information that is relevant to that audience, then you're starting to build a relationship. And so that's where, you can get some action.
Exactly, yeah. And the other thing as well is that I think it's important to mention this too, is that see when someone's had a really great experience with your whatever, in this case, live event, the best time to do the marketing is exactly at that moment when they've had an experience. So if you run a live event and you don't market to people directly after it, then you're missing a massive opportunity for you're missing a massive sales opportunity, but you're also missing an opportunity for them as well. They want to buy something at that point too, so give them something that can help them and make and increase that value for them. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to get the timing right. The timing is so important with that email that you send out. Yeah,
that's a really good point. It reminds me a little bit, I might talk to you offline about this little marketing circle I'm putting together, because it is very much a journey that kind of keeps going around in a circle. I like to think of it as a spiral where you keep elevating as well. So you keep going up levels.
Definitely.
But like you say, you deliver an awesome experience, and then that's the point at which the audience is happiest to come back and buy something else, which, they know is going to be an awesome experience as well, and it's going to take them further on the journey, whatever that may be.
Yeah, exactly.
So when is CMA Live 2018, and are there any tickets left?
Yeah, so we've got 100 tickets left, but they're not on sale just now. So, we closed. Basically, what happened was we had the early bird, or we called it the pre-sales, right? So if you want the best price, you buy it now. We closed it on the 30th of June, and we can't buy a ticket just now. You have to add yourself to a waiting list. Then we'll come out with the tickets in November. So again, if you look at the journey we've had so far, the idea here is, and I think this will be interesting for people that do run live events, is that we're building a waiting list for months. And then we'll release some speakers and we'll build up some interest, and then we'll release the tickets on a certain date at a certain time. Think Glastonbury Music Festival. It's the same sort of concept, right? Where the tickets are going to be available at a certain moment, a certain time on a certain date. And if you want to guarantee your place, you'll have to buy it quickly. So that's what we're going to do with CMA Live. We've got 100 tickets left. We'll sell them out by the end of the year, I reckon. And you can add yourself to a waiting list. If you go to cmalive.co.uk, you'll find out a little bit more about the event and our speakers for next year. Okay, and we'll have a link to that in the show notes as well. I'm just writing that down as we speak. So cmalive.co.uk. That's right, yeah. Yeah. All right, so and when is the event? It's the June, 6th and 7th of June 2018, yeah. Okay. We've got announced speakers at the moment. Anne Handley coming, and we've got Brian Fanzo coming along as well, and we've got another 5 speakers to announce at the moment. So there'll probably be something like 10 or 12 main speakers at the event this year. It's over 2 days in Edinburgh in Scotland. What sort of format is the event? So you've got 10 or 12 keynote presentations. Yeah. So so we've kind of, this is a big thing. I mean, a lot of events you'll go to will have more than one track, but we've kept it to one track. So this means like everybody's in the room experience the same thing at the same time, and instead of having sort of breakout sessions and things like that. So we're probably still going to run it that way, and I think it's again, it comes back to how I want to run a live event and how we want to people to experience it. So we'll have, basically we break it out into, we'll have keynote presentations that bookend the day. So we'll start with a keynote and we'll end with a keynote. In the middle of those 2 keynotes each day, we'll have a couple of how-to presentations, or so basically there'll be highly tactical kind of workshop-led presentations, and then we'll have some really short presentations as well, kind of like think TED, like TEDx talk, for example. An example of that, we'll have like lightning speakers is what we call them, and they come up and they share a story for maybe anything between 7 and 15 minutes, and then we have lots of networking time in the middle as well. So really, and we've got tons of social events. So really we try to have this whole experience that everyone's experiencing all at the same time. We try to include everyone as much as we can, and that, again, that's another reason for keeping that number at 200 instead of growing it. We don't really want to lose that community feel that we have in the room. I think it's a really special thing that we've managed to create somehow, and breakout sessions and having 2 or 3 different tracks could quite easily dilute that. So I'm quite conscious of that as well. Yeah. Well, certainly 200 participants and maybe 10 speakers, and I don't know how many other staff you've got there, but that's a nice cozy group, I'd like to say, compared to say a big convention or something. Yeah, it feels like a good number. I want to do as much as I can with that number, and to the point where I feel like even people are asking me for breakout sessions before we even attempt it. Yeah. If you think about it from an organizational perspective as well, for anyone that organizes live events that's listening, if you've got double track, like say you've got 2 or 3 tracks, right? That's 2 or 3 different rooms you need to have. You're going to have team members coordinating people. Your agenda has to be set out correctly. If you want to video and audio record each one of them, you're going to need AV equipment in each room. You're going to need presenting material in each room. You're going to have a room host. You could just imagine, like, from going from 1 track to 3, the costs will increase exponentially, but also the amount of stress that I would have. I was just going to say the headaches increasing exponentially as well. Yeah, too many moving parts. Exactly, it does become
quite a logistical challenge then.
Yeah, exactly. So, I hope that's given people an insight into how we run live events. Jürgen, is there anything, do you think I've missed anything?
No, that's been really great. I've been frantically taking notes here, so we need to put this together and get some ideas for our own events. But I really like the whole approach, and the idea that the experience is the most important thing, and the relationships you build out of that, and then developing people to the point where they, first of all, I'm guessing that a lot of the delegates are people that are coming back year after year, but then also they're raving fans in that they're telling their friends or their business associates, hey, you've got to come along to this event. It's fabulous.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's actually still surprising how many new people are coming every year as well. So, like I said, with conferences, you never really know what to expect. Some people might skip a year. You can't really just say, like, for example, you can't say, oh, you didn't come this year, so you're not a customer anymore. They might come next year. You've really got to see the longer perspective with the event for sure. Yeah, but if anyone's got any questions, Jürgen, I'm happy for people to pick my brain. They can grab me on Twitter at ChrisMarr101. It's something that, the live event experience, the membership stuff, it's something that I'm trying to get, improve at all the time. So if anyone's got any questions about anything, then I've maybe not covered something properly or whatever, they can, feel free to ask me anything. Yeah,
that's fabulous. So that's, what is it, at ChrisMarr101 on Twitter. That's right. So we'll have the link to that, and people can reach out and thank Chris for all that you've shared with us today, because this has been fantastic, but also ask any follow-up questions or offer advice if they've got advice for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Yeah, always learning. Yeah, but we've covered so much today. So hopefully it's not rattled people's brains too much.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I've really enjoyed this. So love talking to you as always. And we did the buzz the last time, so I think we'll skip over that. We might do it the next time in a year's time. If we do another podcast, we'll do the buzz again. Yeah. But I'd like to thank you again, and it's been really great. So thanks. I appreciate your time. And I always ask my guests at the end, and I'm sure you remember me asking this last time, but I'll do it again. So who would you like me to interview on a future podcast, and why?
Well, that's a good one. Someone that I've admired and what they do is James Schramko. He's been a mentor of mine this last 6 months. I think he would be a great person to have on the show if you've not interviewed him already.
I have actually had James on, but it has been a while as well. So, I mean, there are people coming up now that I'd already had on. So somebody's suggesting a guest that I've already had. And I thought, oh, well, that's all right. We'll invite them back. There's no reason why people can't come back.
Well, what about one other one that pops into mind is Mike Morrison from the Membership Guys based in the UK. They're building an amazing business and they do amazing work. So I think they would be Mike Morrison from the Membership Guys would be on the list as well for sure.
Okay, I'll reach out to Mike as well. I do listen to their podcast from time to time, so that's quite good. And I noticed that you've restarted your podcast as well.
I have, yeah, that's right. I'll come back now, and that's us committed to the podcast forever. That was my thing. So yeah, we're back in the game now, which is good. Glad to be back.
Okay. All right. Well, Chris, thanks so much for joining us again on the InnovaBuzz podcast today and being so generous with your insights and your time. I've really enjoyed it and learned a lot, and I wish you all the best for the next CMA Live, and let's keep in touch again.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jürgen. It's been a lot of fun today. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed hearing from Chris as much as I enjoyed having him back on the podcast. I love Chris's philosophy and his entire approach to marketing his events. His objective is excellence in what he does rather than massive growth, and he's always focused on delivering outstanding value to members and clients. All the great ideas and tips that Chris shared with us can be found at innovabiz.com.au/CMA for Content Marketing Academy. That is CMA, just the letters, all lowercase, all together, no hyphens, no dashes, innovabiz.com.au/CMA. You'll also find contact information for getting in touch with Chris there. Leave your comments under that blog post telling us what you've taken from this episode and what you think you can implement in your business. If you have questions for Chris, comment there too, as I'm sure sharing that discussion with all our readers will add value. Chris suggested James Schramko from Superfast Business and Mike Morrison from the Membership Guys for me to interview on a future InnovaBuzz podcast. We've had James on the podcast on episode 21, and we'd love to have you back on the podcast, James. And Mike, we'd love to have you on for the first time. I'm a big fan of the Membership Guys podcast, so I'd definitely love to have you as a guest on the InnovaBuzz podcast. So keep an eye on your inboxes, James and Mike, for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of ChrisMarr. If you haven't already done so, head on over to iTunes or Stitcher or Pocket Casts and subscribe to the InnovaBuzz podcast so you'll never miss a future episode. Of course, we always welcome feedback, and you can leave us feedback there and reviews as well so that we know how we're doing. If there's anything you'd like us to cover or questions you want answered on a future InnovaBuzz podcasts or even guests you'd like us to interview, please send those ideas to us. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz. Remember, if you don't innovate, you stagnate. So think big, be adventurous, and keep innovating.